I want to bring on Brian Almon here, the fantastic writer, podcaster, if you will, and just all around good guy, good family guy. Brian, welcome to the program. I really want to hear from you, your perspective, just kind of like a 20,000 foot view of what the press is like here in Idaho, the corporate press, and then let's talk about how you specifically are working to kind of combat some of the narrative that's out there, and ways that everybody can kind of stay connected and involved and pay attention to both sides of the story, if you will. But give us an overview of what you see is going on in our Idaho press.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on here on your maiden voyage. It's quite an honor, and I'm looking forward to seeing, speaking of press and getting the message out, I'm looking forward to seeing how Idaho Signal is going to do that, bypass the mainstream press and bring people information about what's actually happening as it happens. And of course, I'm trying to do the same thing. I've started to interact with the mainstream press, and it's not all bad. Some of the outlets, they're very clearly slanted in one way. If the say Idaho Statesman or Capital Sun is going to talk about an issue, they're clearly going to be coming at it from the left. Although I have to give the Statesman credit, they did publish a few of my letters to the editor recently. In other cases, it really depends on what they're talking about. If you're reading Boise Dev and they're talking about some land use thing, you're probably going to have accurate information, I assume. The Idaho Press recently did an article about the possibility of an Ohio-like abortion referendum coming to Idaho, and the reporter reached out to me and fairly represented my comments. So, there's two ways of looking at it. Do you want to try and starve the mainstream press, keep them, not interact with them at all because they're biased, or do you want to engage with them and, one way or another, get your message out? And actually, before I talked to that reporter, I had a conversation with Senator Herndon just to get, his advice on how to make sure that your message is clearly stated, because he is tremendously good at that. But at the same time, I think it is very important that we be building our parallel institutions. It goes in all areas of society. We need to be building parallel conservative institutions. But most importantly, with journalism and press and information, because control of information really is control of people. And if the only thing you're seeing about, say, the legislative session or Idaho political news is coming from the big corporate outlets, then you're really missing a lot of context. And they're pushing their agenda, and they want to frame the story in such a way that you believe a certain thing and take certain actions and vote a certain way. So so I think it's important that all of us are getting out there. So you just brought up Substack. It's a great platform. The whole purpose of Substack is just to give you the ability to write stories, write posts, have them delivered to people's inboxes. People can subscribe for free. People can subscribe, for a few dollars a month to get extra stuff. And over the last few months, I've really made an effort to get out there and post something every day, because there is no lack of things to talk about. And sometimes it's just things I find interesting, like when Wyatt Earp was a Kootenai County deputy sheriff. But other times it's things that people are really, curious about, such as who's funding these attack ads against the Canyon County conservative senators, who, the PAC that's funding them, where are they getting their money? Find the breadcrumb trails that go all the way up to the top, things like that. And some of those things I haven't seen in mainstream news. They'll tell you what somebody working for IFF said in a tweet 5 years ago, but they're not going to tell you that Governor Little's soliciting donations that are eventually being used to tar Tammy Nichols and Brian Lenny and Chris Trakel as California liberals.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. A lot of the times it's what the press isn't reporting on that is is the big problem, because what we're aiming to do here is to highlight stories that we think the people are interested in and that they should be interested in, because as a press outlet, you're a curator of information, and there's only so much stuff that you can do. But when independent outlets like yours come out, it tends to trigger a lot of folks, because that specific story that you mentioned about Governor Little's PAC, seemingly collecting money for one reason and then turning it around and washing the money here and there and so forth for other reasons. Whether all that is true or not, it's at least something worth investigating. And I think that's the point. It's always the people that are asking the questions that get in trouble. And so I look forward to seeing you asking a lot of questions. I want to get into, the next time I have you on, I really want to get into some more of the specific stories that you've been covering and asking you what the feedback you've been getting through your website and stuff. So we've got about a minute left here. Any closing thoughts before we ask you to make sure we get your contact info and how to reach you and how to follow you?
Well, like I said, I appreciate the opportunity to be on here. I'm really excited for this and so many other outlets coming out. If you go to a website, I didn't set this up, someone else did. It's called Idaho.one, Idaho.one in your web browser. And that will bring you to, it's basically not a curated, but an aggregated list of a bunch of different right of center media outlets here in Idaho. And it'll just post whatever they're posting. It's got the Substacks from Senator Zeiderveld. It's got, whatever IFF publishes, the Idaho Freedom Caucus, Idaho Tribune, Stop Idaho Rhinos, Kootenai Journal, and of course my publication as well. So you can see a lot of different ones there, and they're adding more all the time as these different things pop up. And I'm excited to see this parallel media environment grow.
Yeah, Idaho One. I'm aware of this. I'm excited about it because it does act kind of like almost like a Drudge Report on steroids with the aggregating of different outlets on the conservative side. So we're really happy to see that. All right, Brian, where's the best place to read your stuff? Where do people need to go?
Well, you can go directly to gemstate.substack.com, but just this week I've launched a new platform. It's called Gemstate Chronicle, gemstatechronicle.com. It's going to have everything from Substack and more. This evening I'll be live blogging from the Idaho GOP winter meeting, and I'll be bringing you updates from the session once it starts. So, I will be on the ground right alongside you, sharing as much information as I can get.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brian. We'll look forward to having you back.
Thank you.